Hello, everyone. My name is Dovi Frances, the founding partner of Group 11, and I'm happy to welcome you to the fifth part of our six-part series, Digitizing the Office of the CFO. In our last episodes, we hosted the CFO of Trip Actions, CEO and co-founder of Papaya Global, the CFO of Tibaldi, and most recently, the CEO and co-founder of Sorbet. For those of you tuning in for the first time today, we decided to launch this webinar to create a forum where finance leaders and professionals can learn about the tools and strategies that best enable businesses to thrive in the face of quite a challenging macro environment. As the world becomes far more unpredictable, finance leaders are faced with the spectrum of challenges stemming from these chaos. We believe that many of our portfolio companies featured in this webinar series offer important tools that can improve the odds of success for businesses of all sizes. On that note, I'm happy to welcome here today Guy Benjamin, CEO and co-founder of Healthee. Prior to Healthee, Guy spent 12 years as a fighter pilot in the Israeli Air Force. We'll talk about that, Guy. Love to hear more about that. And also was an associate partner at McKinsey & Co., focusing on digital transformation and analytics. For our listeners, feel free to ask any questions that come to mind in the chat box, and we'll do our very best to address them throughout the session. Guy, it's great to have you here. Let's get to it.
Yeah, great to be here.
All right. So typically when we start these webinars, I like to start with a personal aspect and just ask a few, personal questions about your upbringing, where you came from, your professional experience, etc. You have, even when we invested in you, I think I told you, you have quite an uncommon professional kind of like trajectory, if you will, career path. You started at the Air Force, you went to Yale, you worked at McKinsey as a partner, and then decided to tackle the problem of health and wellness benefits and to start a company. So can you take us through your journey quickly?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the fact that, first of all, I always knew that I wanted to start my own thing at some point. So I think everything I've done prior to starting this company was kind of like, a preparation for that moment. When I was a fighter pilot, which is, again, very, very different than what I'm doing today, but I see it as very relevant because I learned about, going after your goals, setting clear targets, being resilient and persistent, which is, I think, super important for any company that just getting started, but also very focused, which we'll talk about that in a minute as well. When I transitioned to McKinsey, that's where I kind of learned from spending time with business leaders, helping them solve complex problems across different topics, learning new industries, and really focusing on bringing kind of digital solutions to improve different processes. And lastly, I'm also the youngest of four brothers, and that also is something that helped me a lot just from learning from them. But when I was at McKinsey, I realized at some point how little I know about my health benefits and how much money I'm wasting by not knowing how to navigate my health benefits. And as I dug a bit deeper into this, I realized that employers are also spending tons of money on healthcare and on health insurance. And that is exaggerated by the fact that employees make poor decisions on healthcare, and that drives up costs for them, for their employers. And it really got me thinking that there has to be a different way. And there has to be a different way to improve health benefits, cost and navigation, but not just a different way that is more of the same. It's more around bringing technology and injecting technology into this space. And when you think about it, in the last few years, information is more available, cost is more available, technology is advanced enough to kind of being able to help. But the really last part of the puzzle is that user expectations have evolved. And the fact that we are still needing to call centers or providers' offices. And it's one of the last industries that we still do that. And that got me to the understanding that there's a room for technology here and a room to do something completely different.
Can I ask you, in those type of conversations, I go off script. So I want to touch on three things, but trust me, I'm getting back to Healthee, etc. But so I think the first question is, you didn't mention Yale. And Yale is a good school. So you didn't mention it because it wasn't a good experience, or you didn't mention it because it doesn't matter?
No, it's a good question. I see Yale. I loved my time at Yale. It was an amazing school. I still have really, really good friends from Yale. I see Yale as more of the transition from the military life, the Air Force, to the private sector, McKinsey, right? Like I don't think I could have done that transition as smooth as I had without having Yale in the middle, but it was more of a kind of like a stepping stone towards what I wanted to get to, which is that transition. 12 years in the Air Force, amazing time, did a lot of things, some things we can talk about, but it's been part of a very narrow world, I would say.
Yeah.
Where you're very focused.
Yeah, so you may remember, but I'm kind of like surrounded by pilots. My not in my family's DNA, sadly. We're not talented enough. But my father-in-law, my wife's dad, is a decorated fighter pilot. Was a decorated fighter pilot with Phantoms. He even took a Syrian MiG back in the days. Took down a Syrian MiG. Was a pilot in El Al for many years and retired at the age of 65, which happens to pilots. So I've had a chance to kind of like witness the last few years of him working at El Al before retiring and becoming a private pilot. And you said something earlier about the tenacity of the work of the pilot and how organized you have to be when you basically prepare for anything, whether it's a civilian effort or a military effort. And definitely I've seen those type of attributes working with you in the way you come prepared to meetings, from fundraising all the way to board meetings, obviously. I've seen it also with other CEO of ours who also was a fighter pilot, Guy Goldstein, the CEO and co-founder of Next Insurance. And you're seeing the same kind of like attributes and characteristics with founders of ours who were pilots, and also with family members of mine who were pilots. It's just a thought that there is some kind of a very interesting common denominator amongst pilots, that's interesting. I think what's unique and different is that many pilots do not become founders of companies. They do not have that entrepreneurial muscle because their inclination is to work with a manual and create very clear manual of checks and balances constantly. So what is it about you that brought you into the into entrepreneurship? That's the first question. And does it have anything to do with you being the fourth brother? I guess for male brothers, no sisters.
Yeah, no sisters. It's a good question. I think, as you said, yes, pilots are very much planned. Like when you go on a mission, you will study probably for every hour you spend in the air. You'll probably spend about 8 hours just preparing and getting ready for any situation. But at the end of the day, we always say when you go on a mission, it's the kingdom of unknown, right? Like you don't know what's gonna be there when you get there, but you are prepared for almost every situation. And I think that's a lot with entrepreneurship, because you go in and you start a company and you think it's going to be this way, but every day is different and every day takes you in a different direction that you probably didn't even know that that's where it's going to go, and in that pace. And I love that. I love the fact that every day is new. There's really good days and there's bad days, but at the end of the day, you're going towards one mission that it's still the same mission, regardless of where you're going to get there. Like my mission is to help people be healthier. That's where I want to go. I want to help them be healthier and lower their healthcare costs. That's the two things that I'm super focused on. And it doesn't matter. Eventually we're getting there, but the way is different. And that I think is very, very similar to how fighter pilots operate. And on being the youngest of four brothers, yes, I've always looked up to my brothers. They're a bit older than me, so it was always great to have somebody to look up to. And yeah, I learned a lot from that.
Interesting. All right, let's talk about the day where the idea of starting Healthee came to mind, and I'll say just something very unique. Some of our founders are established entrepreneurs. So I mentioned Guy as an example, but I could have mentioned also Arya and Elon of Trip Actions as another example, because both of those founders went through a similar process when coming up with their second and third startups. They thought about things top down. They looked at large industries that can be disrupted by software as a service, and basically went back and forth on a few ideas until they narrowed. One of them narrowed on insurance for small businesses as a platform, not as an endpoint solution. The other one narrowed on into the kind of like area of corporate travel and expense management, which is also a platform, not an endpoint solution. And with you, because you were not an entrepreneur prior, I'm just intrigued, and you are an outsider to the industry, which by the way is a common denominator amongst most of my founders. What happened? Did you wake up one morning? You had a project at McKinsey around healthcare. Like why healthcare?
I think it was mostly around my own experience, right? Like when you think about I'm moving into the US from Israel, very, very different healthcare system. You know this, in Israel, there's almost no in-network, out-of-network. There's no bills that you need to worry about. Like you just go to the doctor. And when I moved here and suddenly realized that I have no clue what I'm covered for, I don't know which doctors I can go see. I'm getting bills that I didn't know nothing about. And at first, I remember this, I thought that maybe it's because I'm an immigrant and I just don't know the system. But the deeper I looked into it, and that's also part of what you learn at McKinsey, which is you see a problem, first you learn, you do the research. And I did a ton of research and also talked to my colleagues and I asked them, well, are you facing the same problem? And everybody has the same answer. The system is broken. It's just broken. And I think the fact that I'm an outsider gave me the opportunity to also say, well, why not fix it? Because I think most people, that's how they grow up. That's how they see it. And they're like, okay, it's broken. It is what it is. And they're not even thinking about ways to improve it. So for me, it was mostly from a personal experience. And also when I think about my co-founders, one of them is one of my best friends. He's a doctor himself, and he had the same issues. He's from Israel, but when he looked at the U.S. healthcare system, for him, it was obvious that something is wrong.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating. All right, let's talk about use cases. Mm-hmm. You know, with most platforms, use cases change over time, obviously, and there are also exogenic kind of like factors that come from the market and market demand. How did Healthee start in that respect, and what happened with the product over the past 12, 18 months?
Yes. So when we started Healthee, we were really focused on building, we know that we wanted to build a platform, not just a point solution. But when we started, we had to be focused, right? Back to what we talked about in the beginning, being focused, right? So we wanted to build something that's going to help reduce healthcare costs for both employers and employees, because we saw that one of the biggest pain points around health benefits. It's the cost and the fact that employers spend millions of dollars every year on health insurance, but well-paid employees still struggle to get the care they need, right? Because of cost, confusion, really got us kind of like thinking, what can we do? And when we launched the first version of the product, we really focused on answering questions. We knew that, okay, there's uncertainty. Let's just build something that can answer question, because we understand that was a pain point. But we all know that we never know if we're covered for a medical service or procedure, how much something is going to cost us in network, out of network. I don't know if people are aware of this, but 70% of employees say they don't know what their insurance covers. 60% of our employees won't go to a doctor because they're not sure if they're covered for it or how much it's going to cost. And today, when you fast forward, so that's where we focus on. But today, fast forward to today, we're a full healthcare operating system. We help employees choose the best health plan during open enrollment. We help them address their healthcare needs. We show them how much provider is going to cost before they go there. We steer them towards in-network providers. We even offer free telehealth appointments and really much more. It really became a health operating system. And when you think about companies today looking to consolidate software solutions, looking to save costs, we're really focused on making sure that your employees don't need any other platform but Healthee, and to deliver ROI from day one, which is something we're very focused on.
So you're actually tackling my next question. So let's actually dive deeper into it. Mm-hmm. Let's not talk about the employee for a second, because I think it's really, really clear that the healthcare system, corporate healthcare system is completely broken. It's a massive industry, right? As an employer, we're paying, it really depends. It depends if employees and their families, depends to what extent you cover. But typically between $7,000 to $22,000 per employee on average annually. So it's a lot of money. And I believe that more than half of the US workforce is covered by their employer. So, massive industry. The employees are definitely not happy with what they're getting. Those 200 to 300 pages of policy that I get, as an employee in one business, every year they change during election period as well, are completely incomprehensible. When I get the bills, I like, did I even go there? Like, what really happened? What am I paying for? The copay is an enigma. Running between vendors here for the same procedure, and I just had it. We'll talk about it in a second. I just had one. The copay varies so dramatically. and you don't get any intelligence around like what the service providers do. So from the employee's perspective, totally broken, right? I mean, So you no need to sell me there. From the employer's perspective, in light of the current economic situation, what I hear a lot from CFOs, and mind you, we work a lot with CFOs, right? I mean, this webinar is all about CFOs, and for a reason. That's our target audience. Typically, we sell to CFOs. Our portfolio companies sell to CFOs. What I've been hearing is consolidation. You touched upon it earlier. So if you, as a CFO, used to work with 50 software providers, you will now work with 15, right? You will consolidate to the extent possible. You'll cut any unnecessary expenditure. What do you sell to them? Is the angle here is, hey, your employees will be happier, retention will be better, etc., which is, it's a two-step approach, right? Or is the angle here is, I'm going to save you money for your participation in the copay. I'm going to save you money for the renewal of the policies, and your employees will be happier, and the retention will be higher. They'll be healthier. They'll be more productive. Like, what's the sell?
It's cost. We're very, very focused on cost, right? And I want to show you. I'm going to go also a bit off script, but I'll show you a little, just a something that we tend to show to CFOs, which is healthcare cost, right? And this shows what is the premium for 100 employees on average, right? And you can see that 3 years ago, it used to be $650,000 per every 100 employees. Today, or in next year, it will be close to $900,000. And these costs are just increasing, right? So year over year by double digits every year. And this is for 100 employees. If we have people in the audience that have 1,000 employees, obviously that's close to $10 million. And if you keep just doing the same thing, which is basically not doing anything, those prices are just going to increase. So if you're spending almost $1 million on healthcare for every 100 employees today, you can rest assured that in 5 years, you're going to probably spend $1.3 million on employees' healthcare. And what we are selling to CFOs is the ability to control that and the ability to reduce their healthcare spend. Because again, if they're just not going to do anything about healthcare, it's just going to keep increasing. And that's what we're selling. So we're focusing on, yes, we will reduce your costs, but also we will improve your employees' experience. We will improve retention. We'll also save money to the end user, to the employee. But CFOs that are looking to reduce costs, and I talk to CFOs almost every day. I talked to one this morning, and she said, I kind of take it as it is what it is. Every year it's going to go up by 10%, and that's it.
Yeah, and you're mentioning the cost of the premium, right, for 100 employees, and that the evolution of the price. What about the participation in the copay? Can you talk a little bit about that? Not all employers have the same kind of like policy, but those are more established, like middle market enterprises, all the way to large ones. I would suspect they participate in the copay. Is that true?
Yeah. So we have, there's different type of employers. There's self-insured and fully insured. Premium is obviously for fully insured. Like, I guess you guys are fully insured, and most companies with less than 300 employees are fully insured. When you think about self-insured, that's a whole different thing, but that's also increasing. Even deductibles, right, which is on the employee side, have gone up by 111% in the last 7 years, right? And so all these costs are just increasing way above inflation or way above what our wages are increasing. So yes, CFOs, they come in, costs for healthcare come in many different shapes and sizes, but the overall trend is that they're increasing rapidly.
So the use case of the self-insured employer, and by the way, Next Insurance as an employer, thousand employees is a self-insured.
Right.
So we're speaking about it with their CFO. What do you present to them? What's the use case there?
Yeah, so for self-insured is a pretty clear use case, because if I can help your employees find lower cost options for their healthcare, you get the savings from day one right away. It goes straight to your bottom line, right? I can show you a quick example, right? Like, let's say you're an employee and you need to get a procedure, right? You mentioned that you just recently had a procedure, right?
I had an MRI, so I suffer a little bit from my lower back from the army days. It's an old injury, and Yeah, I had to do just some checking. Yeah.
Yeah. So today, when you need to go get an MRI, you usually just go. You hope that you find something in network, and then that's where you go. With our platform, and I'll show you this how it works. We'll do exactly what you just mentioned, right? An MRI with using our platform, and this is in your zip code, right? 90210.
90210.
Yeah.
This is cool. Show me.
These are all the MRI locations that you can go to within a 50-mile radius to where you live.
Yeah.
And it shows you their cost to you. So $21 if you go here. The cost to your employer if they're a self-insured employer. And then their pro score, which is like a quality, right? So I can show you here the lowest cost place, still high quality, is 8 miles away from you. It's going to cost you $21. The employer will pay the rest, so $212.
No, guys, no, yeah. Just quick question: are you making an assumption here on who my insurance provider is?
No, this is based on the coverage of your network. This is just for your network.
When you say from my network, what do you mean? My insurance company?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So you're using an insurance company in this particular example. I just want to make sure because our audience might not understand it. Okay.
Yeah. So it's only based. So when I use this, it will be specific results. But when someone else that uses a different insurance, will see different results.
Perfect. Understood.
Now we're looking here at there's 109 locations within a 50-mile radius of your zip code to an MRI that you're covered for. Now take a guess. If we are now seeing the lowest cost one. $21, $212 for the employer. Take a guess what will be the most expensive one, right? If we think this is $212, what could be the highest cost one?
Dude, I don't want to make a guess. I can tell you that I paid way more.
Okay, so let's look at the highest one. Like I'll sort it by price. So high to low. $3,300, right? That's the difference. That's the range between this for the same exact MRI, Dovi. This is not like a golden MRI or this is the exact same thing. These are both covered by your insurance, and you could easily go to this place and pay $300 when your employer will pay the rest. Or you can go to the first place that we looked at and pay $21 and your employer $12,200. That's more than 10x.
That's my employer who's self-insured, correct, guys?
Exactly.
Then in the employer, in the smaller employer, less than 300 employees, etc., if the employer participates in the copay, then of course he's impacted by the delta of the 20 to 300 and something dollars, and of course I guess the premiums go up over time if you're overutilizing the policy of the business.
That's exactly it. Because if you go to the higher cost options at the end of the year for your fully insured employers, your increase in the premiums will be based on your employees' behavior, right? And it's really hard to change behavior if you don't have the right information. This is exactly like, think about your user behavior on Amazon. Amazon, we always go and we look for prices, we look for reviews, and then we find the best place to buy it from, right? Here is the same thing. I can tell you that all of our users will go here. It's the default is by price. They'll find a place that is close enough, that has a good quality score, and that's where they'll go. They won't even scroll. Like for me to go to that $1,000 places, I need to really scroll down. I need to actively look for an expensive place. And that's part of where the saving is coming from.
Really, really cool. Yeah, ultimately, I think currently, without the implementation of technology software solution like Healthee, I think the CFO is really at the mercy of the employee. If I as an employee want to mess with my employer, I'm not a happy employee and I want to mess with my employer, I could just go and yes, I may need to participate in it within the copay, but I can really impact the cost of my employer for sure. And God forbid if there is a serious situation and I don't know, similarly to how I booked my own MRI, right? Because I didn't have Healthee when booking my MRI solution. I might be small of a customer for you. We'll talk about that.
But the beauty here is also that incentives are aligned, because an employee wants to go to a lower cost, high quality location too. They want to save money as well because they have all these copays. So incentives are aligned. If I can help employees be more educated, get the right data, their behavior is going to be steered towards exactly what the CFO needs them to go to.
I have a question on that. Obviously, you speak a lot with CFOs, and good founders early on in the life of the company participate in most of the important sales calls with enterprises, middle market enterprises, etc.
Yeah.
What's your competition? What do you hear from them?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I think most of the companies we speak with, most of CFOs are not even aware that this is an option. As I mentioned, they kind of see it as table stakes. Healthcare, I just got to spend on it. I just got to assume a 10% increase year over year, and that's it. So we come in and it's a lot about education of the CFO themselves as well. On the other hand, there's also companies that are using other platforms that are not as intuitive, not as comprehensive. They use many point solutions. So for example, they'll have a point solution just for helping employees pick the best plan during open enrollment. That means that point solution only touches the employee once a year for open enrollment. They'll have solutions where it only shows coverage question, but no price transparency. And then another solution for price transparency. So we really bring in, and maybe this is a good time to kind of start really talking about what we do as a platform. We bring everything into one place. We build a health operating system for the employee where they don't have to go anywhere else, and it helps steer them towards the right places, but also to the best solutions that can help them save money, but still be healthier.
Got it. So this is not a transactional platform per se. So meaning you get involved when I need an MRI, and as an employee, I use the platform and I ask the questions that I ask, and I choose the best option for me, and my interests are aligned with that of the enterprise. But also you're a place for me, when open enrollment comes about, you're a place for me where I can choose a better policy, or a policy that fits my needs as an employee. Is that correct?
Your and your family's needs, yes.
Also, as an employee, you allow me to ask fundamental questions about my health. So for example, let's say I need, psychotherapy, okay? And I don't know if it's covered by the health insurance policy that my organization has. And also, I'm not sure I want to ask other people. Exactly. I want to ask this question confidentially. That's something that Healthee can do for me.
Exactly. That is exactly it. We basically, what Healthee does is we're an operating system that provides employees kind of a digital health assistant. We call her Zoe, and she helps employees pick plans, find providers, find coverage, avoid overpriced medical services, and really book telehealth appointments as well. And the beauty of our technology is that it's agnostic to any health plan. So we can take your health plan, your medical, dental, vision, all those you mentioned, 200 to 300 page documents, and any point solution that you use today, and kind of convert them from an unstructured data source, which is just a nicer way to say a PDF, which is what we get from our carrier or our brokers, to a structured and mapped database. And then once we do that, we kind of become the digital front door for every employee throughout the year to understand their health plan, pick the plan that they need, find providers, everything. And Zoe, kind of the personal health assistant that I mentioned, answers any question an employee has. And your example is great because we see that almost 50% of the questions we get asked are what we call personal questions around mental health, STD, weight management. It means that sometimes the employee doesn't want to go and ask HR, hey, what are we covering for this? So that gives them that avenue to go and get questions to their actual needs. And the last thing I will say is that it doesn't end there. From a CFO perspective, we provide reports that show the CFO what benefits employees really care about. And that gives them the way and the data to decide, well, should I add a benefit? Should I not? Should I remove benefit that nobody's using or nobody's needing? HRs, we hear that from CFOs as well. HR always comes to them and say, hey, let's add this benefit, or let's add that benefit. There's no real data behind it. And we provide that data.
Yeah, it's really interesting because there are two things I want to touch upon. The first one is that the evolution of this, it seems, from the employer's perspective, is potentially also to establish that their health policy, their current health policy, is not sufficient and not adequate for the enterprise. Mm-hmm. And correct me if I'm wrong, but can't they just, I don't know, in the evolution of the platform of Healthee, wouldn't it be intuitive that the platform will be able to help them choose the health insurance policy in open enrollment, like in the future?
Yeah, for the employer, right? Because you can see what benefits your employees care about, right? And you can look at different plans designs and say, well, this design doesn't really fit my employees' needs. It's not a, one size fits all. The opposite. Every group of employees needs something else, and every company has their own needs and requirements. And I remember when I brought healthcare to my company, I got a list a PDF of 70 health plans, and I was asked, hey, pick 3. And that was it. And it's such an important decision. No data behind it, nothing. I just had to pick 3 options that made sense for me. But I didn't have the data. Today I have the data because I know what employees' real needs are.
Yeah. No, I remember when I joined Deutsche Bank. This is like, okay, it's ancient history. Okay, so this is like I joined Deutsche June of 08, just before the crisis, because timing is everything. And I remember I got the binder, that big blue binder with Deutsche Bank logo, and for the life of me, I couldn't understand what they're talking about. They chose a random one. It's hard. It's hard to make that particular choice. The second point. The second point I wanted to make was around the employee happiness. It's easy to say as an employer, I care, and it's very difficult to implement.
Right.
Because the employee will never share with you everything, and nor should they. And so I think having this technological intermediary that is agnostic. He doesn't see the employee's face. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't report back to the employer or anything. I think it's very important. It's very prudent. Also because we are at a record low unemployment rate, and there is no replacement for most employees. Truthfully, for most skilled employees, there is no replacement because we stopped growing our population. We're below replacement rate. We have more people retiring than being born. So that asset that you retain as an employer, that employee that has been trained since college for 10 or 20 years or something like that is not easily replaceable. And it's important to keep them happy to the extent possible, obviously. And obviously, if you can do so in a non-costly way that also saves you money, I think it makes perfect sense.
And also, we know that health benefits is one of the most important benefits an employee has, right? Like they'll switch jobs for a better healthcare. And sometimes CFOs, they'll spend so much money on healthcare, but employees don't even know about it or they can't access it. And that's a waste. That's a waste of right there, right? That's exactly what we're helping with.
Technology. Mm-hmm. I just want to ask, because I'm sure this is a question that comes about a lot. Like, what is this sorcery? Like how Zoe does what she does, and how do you do what you do in front of the employer? And lots of people are throwing today kind of like the term artificial intelligence. In every fundraising deck you're seeing that, right? Deep neural artificial intelligence or what have you. What is it? What is it that is defensible about Healthee's technology, and how does it learn and improves over time?
Yeah, so what we do is we'll take the health plans, right? And we built basically a way to analyze any health plan. It doesn't matter if you use Blue Cross Blue Shield, United, Cigna, which each one of them has a different design, different ways to write things. We will take that data and put it in a way that it's the same, it's normalized. So for us, we can easily take a Blue Cross Blue Shield plan, analyze it, put it in a database that is very similar to the same database that we analyze the Cigna plan. And that way we can really compare and see the differences between the different plans. But once we also put it in that database, that data is now accessible. I'll give you an example. If somebody has diabetes and they're looking at a Cigna plan, on page 20, it will say that they're covered for a specific medication. On page 300, it will talk about the fact that they're covered for an insulin pump. And page 77, it will talk about something else around their benefits around that specific illness or condition. But it's not structured. What we know how to do is we know how to find all of these different pieces for that specific situation, put it in that database in one place that we can access. Now, once we do that, an employee can come to Zoe and say, I have back pains. What am I covered for? And she will not just tell him, oh, you're covered for a primary care physician. She'll say, you're covered for telehealth. You're covered for an acupuncture. You're covered for physical therapy. And you can also talk to your primary care physician if you need to about something else. And if there's any point solution that your employer has, like physical therapy or MSK solutions, you're also covered for that. So the fact that we can put everything in one database and then pull it forward, that's the main technology behind it. And the other thing that we'll add is that Zoe's not only answering questions, it's back to the same thing that we started. It's a platform. So booking appointments, finding costs, as I just showed you, everything, put it in one place, picking a plan, everything in one place. That's kind of like, again, it's very complicated. We're doing something that 6 or 7 different companies are trying to do piecemeals of, right? And
it's So let's talk about sales, because obviously you've been in the market for a little bit.
Yeah.
How long have you been selling Healthee's product to prospective customers?
I think with the product we have now, which is kind of like the platform, for about 5-6 months, since we can basically Q4. That's kind of like when we shifted from having just like a targeted solution where we did like design partners to an actual platform.
So tell me two things. Tell me the first thing, what is the overall sense you're getting from your customers? Yeah. What type of customers are there, right? I mean, it's mostly enterprise, middle market, combination of those two. Yeah. And tell me a funny story about you traveling to meet the sales prospects and what happened through that experience.
Yeah, so I think what's the beauty is that our customers are really all over the place. They're different industries, different sizes. I think healthcare, issues don't discriminate between sizes or industry, which is interesting to see. And we have customers that are beverage distributors, that barely have a smartphone, and we have customers that are consultants, bankers, financial employees. It really is across the gamut. And what we're seeing is that as long as you provide healthcare to employees, you're a prospective customer and you're looking for ways to lower cost and improve customer experience. Interesting thing that we had, I just came back from a customer last week, a really interesting customer from Dallas, where they're very focused on their employees' health. Really, one of the most focused organizations I've ever saw that is trying to really help employees be healthier, which is really inspiring to see. And what was interesting about them is that they're already using our platform for a few months. And we kind of came and say, hey, let's give you a report of what your employees are using Healthee for. And we gave them like very quick, like simple slide saying, these are the 5 benefits your employees really care about. And the first one was weight management.
Huh.
And it was interesting because they had no benefits around weight management. And they asked me, okay, what does it even mean? Like, what kind of weight management? And I said, well, look, there's Weight Watchers and there's like different education and training that you can provide employees, but it's something they're asking. Their first question was around weight management. And it was amazing to see how they're kind of like, you can see they're thinking about, okay, we need to add a weight management benefits, right? And
how many employees do they have?
I've had 1,000.
1,000 centralized location or a few locations?
No, a few locations, but all of them in Texas. So really interesting to see. Another thing that we saw is that the number 5 question was around glasses, frames, but they do cover it. So they said, well, we need to do a campaign to make sure that employees are aware that this is something we're covering because we're paying for it. If they're not using it, we're kind of like not getting credit for something we're already giving.
What is that benefit? Sorry, maybe I misheard. Is it glasses?
Glasses, like
yeah. Glasses. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. By the way, takes me back to when I was at McKinsey for the first 3 years. I didn't even know we're covering prescription glasses. I paid for glasses from my own pocket. So it's a waste, right? And so it was really interesting to kind of spend time with them and see such an organization that is so focused on employees' health, but they don't have, until today, they didn't have any way to know what benefits they really care about.
And I think the benefit of knowing something like this extends actually further than just, okay, let's add this benefit to the policy. Maybe it says something about the work culture in the organization. Maybe it says something about the happiness of the employees. Maybe it says something about the cuisine in the kitchen. I mean, right? Or the snacks that you offer in the kitchen. So I think it's actually a very interesting realization, and I'm sure they took many other things from this from this data point.
Right.
When you go and sell to employer, and again, I don't know to what extent you want to talk about kind of like the pricing model of Healthee, but I'll share something that one of our co-founders once told me, which I really, really liked. He said, when I go and sell to, and he's done exceptionally well, Ariel Cohen of Trip Actions, more than 10,000 customers, enterprises, SMBs, global operation. But he said, there are 2 things that are really, really important when you're selling to the enterprise. One is keep it simple, stupid, right? And the second one is that the question that you need to ask the prospect is like, well, he was blunt in the way he said it. So a little bit, it should be like, it's stupid not to take this offering. It's simple and stupid not to take this offering, because it's very clear to understand what you do and why it's important to the organization, and the value proposition is so strong that you have to be stupid not to capitalize upon it and not to take it. What is in your conversations with prospects that you're telling them, and what is the pricing model if you're willing to share?
Yeah, so happy to. So again, we're helping employers reduce cost of healthcare. That's like the number one thing, right? Obviously, there's additional of helping employees be healthier, improving retentions, and improving employees' health. But at the end of the day, you're already spending, you mentioned it, right? Like $8,000 to $22,000 a year on healthcare. Our cost is $6 per employee per month, right? So when you think about it, it's $72 a year. That's it per employee. And that includes everything, including their family members, including the plan selection, pricing, everything. And for that price, it really is a no-brainer, right? Because our ROI is well over 10x, right? Like if we're already helping employers reduce their spend by anywhere between 5 to 15% on their healthcare expense. We're saving employees between $1,000 to $2,000 every year. Our cost is kind of like very, very minimal compared to the ROI that we bring to the table.
Brilliant. As you kind of like advance in your conversations with prospects, I see kind of like the sales cycles, even considering the current environment, you're seeing them staying stagnant in terms of kind of like the time it takes to bring a prospect from initial conversations all the way to signing the contract, or actually are things accelerating right now for you guys?
It's a really good question, and I would say that it depends who we're speaking with. So I'll give you an example. When we talk to HRs, they are not incented. They're not trying to save. And when you go to them and say, hey, look, we can save you a lot of money, that's not their number one priority. So for them, they're like, okay, well, we don't have the budget for this yet, or we're reducing budget. So let's talk again in next quarter or the quarter after. And that's where the sales cycles are longer. But when we go to CFOs, and it's amazing to see the difference, they get it right away. We'll do this morning I had a meeting with a CFO, which she already asked for like the next meeting in 2 weeks to kind of like go finalize it. I had a meeting with a CFO 3 weeks ago where that was the only meeting and the deal was closed on that meeting. And I think CFOs, and we're learning this more now, they understand the potential of savings here and they want to go fast because the sooner you implement us, the faster you capture savings. While when we talk to HR, they see it as more of like, okay, that will help improve employee experience. It will save money, but that's not my KPI is not on savings, right?
Very interesting. So in the conversations you're having with larger organizations, is it a vision that, so let's say that the person who pushes the decision is the CFO, but they do ask for the consent and the support of CHROs and senior management, or like how does it go?
Yeah, so usually we'll if we talk to the CFO, they'll want to bring in their HR person or their chief people officer to make sure that there's no conflicts here in our platform, which they usually aren't. And then once there's the blessing of the CFO with the need of the HR, it's kind of like a no-brainer from there.
Fascinating. Okay, let's talk about the future for a second. Two questions about the future. One of them is very general and very strange. It's very tough to answer in what I consider to be a chaotic environment for quite some time, right? You have from geopolitical tensions to health scares, to rising interest rates environment, supply chain disruptions, and so on and so forth. So it's very, very difficult. This is not a stable environment anymore, which is obviously a benefit to technology companies because that's what we do, right? We help the enterprise become far more anti-fragile, if you will. But I am asking you to predict the future for Healthee. Yeah. And I'm not asking you to predict the future in general for your clients. So it's an easier question. Where do you see Healthee in 5 years from now?
Yeah. So first of all, we see ourselves with, the most used kind of like health navigation platform out there. We want to be the biggest one in the market with the biggest market share. But we also want to expand our offering and further stretch our user touch points. Helping users with billing, medications, even looking at claims data to kind of enhance personalization. We're prioritizing features today based on what we are finding from our user research, from conversation with CFOs and HR professionals. But again, we kind of set on a path to become a health platform, not a health point solution. And when you think about a platform, it means that there's more things that we haven't touched in this conversation that are part of the healthcare journey. And that's where we want to be. We want to be an end-to-end, so completely end-to-end, from open enrollment to claims and billing, and everything in between. So that's kind of where we're I mean, I don't think it's going to take us 5 years, honestly. I think we can do that in the next 2 years. But that's where we're going to.
Yeah. The moment the payments will also go through Healthee, then you're plugged essentially into the plumbing, into the infrastructure of the enterprise. So unless you do a terrible job, the churn will be exceptionally low, right? And then the dollar retention should be extremely high. Because you become a platform, you have other offerings that we saw that with many of our more established portfolio companies, because obviously it takes time to develop the product and develop the platform offering. But definitely we saw that with Trip Actions that started just in corporate travel, extended itself to expense management. We saw it with Tipalti, obviously accounts payable, mass pay, etc. So yeah, it will happen, I'm sure. If members of the audience want to engage Healthee and learn more about your offering, what should they do?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way is to shoot me an email at guy@healthee.co. Healthee is, as it's spelled here behind me with 2 E's, .co. I'll be more than happy to send you a link that you can test the platform yourself, see how kind of firsthand how Healthee can reduce cost and add value to any organization. And you can also feel free to send me questions around the platform. I think that's kind of like the best way to learn more about it.
Okay, so Lian will type in the chat box your email for everyone to have it. And let me see if there is any question from the audience that we can address right now. If there are 2 questions, let me try and tackle one, and then we're running out of time. I'll need also to wrap it up as well, and we can answer other questions, obviously, that I'm seeing in the chat box via direct emails from the company to the people who were asking them. So let's tackle that. Open enrollment versus not open enrollment, right? Is there a right time to implement Healthee? Like most of your customers are asking to wait until open enrollment, or they're doing it throughout the year? How does it work?
I think what we are seeing is that the sooner you implement Healthee, the sooner you capture savings. Right? If you wait till open enrollment, then that means that we won't be able to influence to your next renewal rate because we're coming in too late. So I think the majority of our customers are actually implementing us off cycle, because that way they can start collecting important benefits data, which can affect which plans they're going to offer during open enrollment to their employees, right? And also, if you launch earlier, it helps kind of ensuring that employees adopt us and actively use our platform during open enrollment, which is also another way to save, because if we can today employees see the most expensive plan as the one that's kind of like probably is the best for them, when it's not always the right solution, right? Sometimes a lower cost plan is better for your needs. So the sooner you implement us, just the faster we can help you capture those savings.
Awesome. All right, let's wrap up. Guy, it was such a pleasure having you here with us today, and I'm grateful for all of you guys who joined, care to tune in to listen. For those interested in connecting with the Healthee team, we've already mentioned, we'll share Guy's email. If you want to go through Lian, our head of value creation business development, her email is lian@group11.vc. And obviously, if you contact Guy for us, you'll receive a special offer for those of you who have participated today. For our next virtual fireside chat, we'll have the CEO and co-founder of Fantastic, Jonathan Inav. We're really looking forward to seeing all of you again in April, which will be our last episode of this particular webinar series. And thanks so much for tuning in today. Thank you.